Welcome to the Dustin Eric Podcast Show, brought to you by Mimosa Networks. I'm Dustin.
I'm Eric.
And
know us.
We're coming to you from the China Poblano in the Cosmopolitan here in Las Vegas. We've got Greg Macy and Scott Buddy from comsearch. So, guys, why don't you tell us a little bit about what comsearch does and what you guys do for all these guys here in the China Poblano?
Where are you coming in from? What state? Or where are you
coming? Two different states. Scott's coming in from California, and I'm coming in from Virginia. So
Virginia.
Yeah.
One side of the U.S. and the other side of the U.S. pretty much.
That's right.
You guys gotta come.
I tried to get away as far away from him as I could, and
we got to get you a 2,800-mile link.
Yeah. So comsearch, we're about 110 employees strong, and what we do is microwave frequency coordination and FCC licensing.
Okay.
We're also involved with CBRS, and we're building a SAS, and we also do a lot of work with path surveys and all sorts of other businesses within our organization. Scott's one of my engineers, and you've been with the company how long?
3 years, and then a year off, and then another 9.5 years, coming up on 10.
So, and I've been with the company 28 years.
Oh boy! So you guys are coast to coast. So you work together, you coast to coast.
Yeah. Once you go to comsearch, you never leave. It's a blessing and a curse.
About 9 years ago, we found the internet. We found that you could work in different locations, so they let me. There's a longer story to that, but I'll save you. But
thank goodness for the internet.
So you guys help find open frequencies for people to use with licensed radios. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the best practices on frequency selection, if you guys can.
Okay, so we do frequency selection the whole way is down as low as 900 megahertz the whole way up to 80 gigahertz. And the core bands that we work in the most are 6.1, 6.7, 11, 18, and 23 gig. And some of the best practices, basically every job that comes through to comsearch, it goes through a 3-step QA process where we make sure that it's compliant against all FCC rules. We make sure that if we detect that you may be on a registered tower, we let you know that. And then also, if we think there's an existing call sign for your system, we let you know that, because our goal, being the biggest coordinator, is we're trying to create a customer experience where essentially we solve any of the problems that you might have early in the process rather than waiting for it to get further down the road at FCC licensing.
And you're at 6.1 already. You're in there. So
oh yeah.
And we're ready for you. I think we've got a few things for you.
Yeah.
You're coming after it.
I know Mimosa has 11 gig band, and I know it's pretty saturated in a lot of areas. So how do you guys help squeeze out additional spectrum in, like, say, the 11 gig band?
Actually, Scott and I were talking earlier, and he had a very good example of a particular network that we came upon where it wasn't that the network was done incorrectly, but it kind of organically grew a little bit over time, and it grew in such a way that you kind of hit a brick wall where there weren't any solutions. And Scott, I'll let you talk how you fixed or remedied the situation.
Sure. So it's enticing to try to build your network little by little. That's the way a business grows. That's the way a network grows. The problem is when you are coordinating frequencies in a small area, like most WISP are doing, you're not always thinking about all the growth that's going to happen, and that with a limited number of frequencies, especially with the wider band or wider frequencies that we're using with Mimosa and other WISPs, there's only 6 frequencies to choose from, and so if you're doing 6 or 7 or 8 paths in a small area, you might prefer to have a wider view of what your network is going to look like, and then you can make better decisions from the beginning. So sometimes, the point that Greg is making is that sometimes it's better to, even though you've already gotten a third of the way through your network, to kind of erase what you did, back out, and re-coordinate and find better frequencies. Even if there's a little bit of a cost to go and redo some of your work, you then get available spectrum across your whole network, which is the end goal. So that's what we did in that case.
I'm sure you were able to refarm a lot of the same frequencies, but maybe just in different implementations.
Right, so probably the physical radios didn't need to be replaced, they just need to be moved around, but we found a way to reorganize that particular network. So that's one example.
So I know you... Go ahead.
Okay.
No.
So, Scott, you're in California. Where in California?
I'm in San Diego.
Oh, in San Diego. Okay. Yep.
So we're NorCal and you're South Cal. Sorry, we can't be friends anymore.
Sorry. We're a classic coordinator, what can I say?
So I know you guys have tons of customers. How do you deal with people who are transmitting illegally? Do you guys deal with that?
Well, we have encountered it before. We have a field team, and they go out and they'll we'll have a customer that has some sort of unexplained interference, and so occasionally this has happened where they'll find a rogue interferer. We try to stay out of the eyes of the FCC in terms of reporting customers, because these same people are our customer base. So what we do is we reach out to them and we let them know about the situation and kind of prove to them that that they have something that's not licensed. But more often than not, it's not intentional.
Right.
And they either have something that they forgot to license, or it's on the wrong frequency, the wrong polarization, or the high-low is flipped. I've seen it anywhere from the smallest of companies to the largest of companies. It's just something that happens within our business.
Right. So when you see something like that, where do you go next?
Well, we reach out to the offender directly.
Yeah, that's the first step.
That's the first step.
So you're looking at links, say 10, 11 gigs. You're looking at polarities. You're looking at you're looking at everything that's licensed there.
Right. Well,
anything that you can, anything out of the ordinary.
Yeah. Typically, what they'll do is they'll go out and put it what you call a spec antenna, and you'll do a sweep and you'll measure signals and you'll triangulate on the interference, and then you start looking, and a lot of times you can figure out who it is. Even.
What are you using for equipment? General spec ends and HP or?
Yeah, that's not really my particular department, but
that's what they're doing. They're looking at primary fundamental frequencies and peaks, amplitude peaks, and then they're looking at side loads.
So they
and they're
spin from side to side until you hit the peak, and that frequency that is the same. This co-channel with me is coming in at 147 degrees azimuth.
Right.
Let's head that way and see if we can find it. So.
All right.
So you guys deal with the FCC all the time. So
we do. We visited them actually 2 weeks ago. We actually went up to see them. We try to visit them like about every 1 or 2 years. It's more of a goodwill visit. We do a lot of FCC licensing, so we want to basically have a good working relationship with them.
Are you taking snapshots, files of screen captures of signals that you see and logging that stuff, and you take it to you get it into Gettysburg or wherever, and you're
We don't do that sort of thing. We don't do like enforcement and report it to the FCC, but we just, as a matter of our business, we work with the FCC very closely on a day-to-day basis.
So because you guys are working with the FCC all the time, what kind of regulatory pitfalls can you talk about that might slow down coordination processes for customers?
Well, one of the biggest things that I see, occasionally you'll have someone that tries to file for a license without doing coordination, but the big one that I see is that somebody gets the whole way through the process, they get a license, and then they forget to do their build-out notice. If you do that, and you pass the time frames, you're going to have to start all over.
They're getting ready to do put some equipment on a tower. Or have they? Yeah, they're
already up and operating.
They're operating. Yeah.
When you have a license terminate like that, by letter of the law, you're supposed to turn down the system. And so, if you terminate, your license is no longer good. It's like starting all over. You can't go and push a button and resubmit the applications. You've got to go through the coordination process again.
Right.
Hope that nobody has taken advantage of the situation and stolen your frequency. We see that occasionally. You have people sitting out there on the fringes because it's a mountaintop in California. There's very little spectrum available, and somebody forgets to do that part, and somebody's like, huh.
Well, that's mine now.
Yeah,
it's pretty busy. It's pretty busy out. And take California, it's busy out there.
It is. If you look out from my house, if you look west, you just see all the mountains. And I asked my wife what they're all named because she's from that area, but all I do is I see the microwave towers on top. But in those cases, once you're licensed, you're able to operate. So they are legal to operate at first, but in some of those cases, they just forget to, like Greg said, on the build-out date, file the completion of construction. And then at that point, you were legally operating for a while, right? And then you now are not if it gets to that point. So that's one pitfall. But
any expired licenses, so they're going past their license expiration.
Not expired license, but when you haven't, the last step of licensing is to file a completion of construction when you actually build your link, and you have 18 months to do that from the license grant date.
And you got to refile or
to file that completion of construction,
and so that you actually built the network, because sometimes people get the license and then don't build the network.
Okay.
So you're certifying because you're getting this license for a 10-year period, and they want to make sure that you've actually built it, because the spectrum is a commodity that's in high demand.
Yep.
But there are some other licensing pitfalls that we don't run into a lot, and Greg talked about this today when he ran the microwave training. The FCC has thousands of rules probably even within this section of work that we're working in. And so we've developed a tool called a warnings document that tries to flag every potential violation of a rule. And there's just too many for any one engineer to think about at any one time. And usually you don't violate any of these rules if you just do what you want to do. But occasionally, you're within a certain distance of a border or any number of other things that you did wrong, or you didn't realize you were using the wrong size antenna on the wrong length path and the wrong band. And so it's good to have quality assurance. And Greg mentioned some of the quality assurance tools we have, like a warnings document that catches any potential violation of a rule. And sometimes they're not actually violating, it's a potential violation, so we have to look at it. But also, you need to, if you're on a tower that needs to be registered, you have to have that ASR number on the license. If you want to use an existing call sign, you have to be within the tolerance of that call sign, the coordinates, the ground elevation. There's just so many things that it's too hard manually to keep track of, so we try to develop our software over time to catch as many of these as possible.
Right. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you guys coming on.
Thank you.
Guys, if you need any kind of 11 gig help or 6 gig or any of those other frequencies, feel free to talk to these guys, and I'm sure they'll be more than willing to help you out. So, Greg and Scott, thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you very much for having us.
It's been a pleasure.
All right, guys.
Appreciate it.
We'll see you guys
Great to meet you. Great talking to you.
next time on the next podcast.
Thanks for tuning in. Please hit the subscribe or follow button to stay up to date with our latest podcast, which will be available on YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, and SoundCloud.